What's up? Welcome everybody. I got me a nice little cup of effervescence. Evanescence? No, effervescence. Wake me up inside. Can we go inside? Save me from the nothing I've become. Oh, it's tickling my nose. The effervescence. I got a little bit of effervescence in my coffee. What's up? My locks are shining. My nose is tingling. I've been snorting chalk all day long. I'm ready to debate. And I know you are too, baby. Now, I don't expect too many libertarians to actually call in. In fact, we had a libertarian buddy in the chat and he just dropped off. So, I don't know. Maybe he didn't like the soundtrack. Beep, beep, boop, 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 beep, boop, 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 boop. But look, it's not just about libertarianism today. That's just on the topic. If people want to call in about that, it's on the topic list. I was kind of hoping we get some more of them BHI boys from across the tracks to call in. BHI boys on the prowl. Drink a little effervescence. Drinking a little evanescence. I don't know if we're going to get any BHIs to call in, but they are more than welcome, my brother, to call in. There were so many things that we didn't get to in that so-called debate with the BHI boys. I wanted to get into history, church history, but we didn't even get that far. A few words on libertarianism before we opened it up. And I put that in there because everybody's talking about it today because of Trump talking about Bitcoin's gonna be great. We'll never go after your Bitcoin. Elizabeth Warren and the Democrats, self-custody. It's gonna be great. And then the libertarians chose some kind of damn freak. Whoa, shocker. The whole philosophy is freak philosophy. And I don't mean in a sexy freak way. I mean in a just gross way. How is that? How do I come to that conclusion? How could I not be libertarian? Well, the libertarian philosophy is only as good as the classical liberalism which underlies it. And so if classical worldview, philosophy, whatever, then Enlightenment liberalism, then all of the components of libertarian philosophy coming out of the Enlightenment are only going to be so good as classical liberalism. Now, not everything is wrong in classical liberalism, but any philosophy can have elements of things that are correct. But it doesn't mean that the paradigm or the system is correct, right? So, we could think of things that Karl Marx got correct in his analyses, but that doesn't make Marxism correct. We could think of things that David Hume got correct, but that doesn't make Humean skepticism correct, you see. So I would argue in short, make it kind of brief here before we open it up. What are some of the critiques? Well, we've been making pretty consistent philosophical critiques of libertarianism for about 10 years on this channel. And you can go back. I put up one of the old videos from about 9 years ago critiquing it. Man, I gotta not drink effervescence on stream. I just want to freaking burp the whole time. I'm only libertarian about the cocaines. Bro, I don't snort cocaine. I snort chalk.com. Right here. You got it all backwards, baby. That's my sponsor. That's a joke too, by the way. Don't snort that stuff. It'll kill you. That's only made to go in your gut and turn you into a Sigma Alpha Chad Max out to the max. This is what Look, everybody's wondering what happened to Zuckerberg. How did he change? How did he? How did he start looking like Jay? Oh, what? Oh. He stole that look. See that look right there on the screen? How did he do it? Chalk.com. We can't stop even the Silicon Valley overlord oligarchs from buying Chalk.com. Look, even if Zuckerberg gets a hold of Chalk.com, what happens? He starts evolving into me. Look at that. Anyway, that's show sponsor, Chalk.com. Head on over there to get the best in supplementations, J44 Life. Anyway, where were we at? We were talking about libertarian philosophy. So some of the basic critiques that I've launched for many years. Classical liberalism is premised kind of on, I guess what you could say is atheistic presuppositions. I understand that not every classical liberal or libertarian is necessarily atheist. The problem is that the presuppositions are atheist. The assumption being that there's no divine institution that exists in history that has any authority to necessarily say anything in regards to collective obligations, collective metaphysical realities, and values. Everyone is in a presupposed place of absolute autonomy, and anything else from the exterior is some form of oppression or a violation of the NAP. And I'm not talking about a black Hebrew Israelites haircut. I'm talking about the non-aggression principle, NAP, N-A-P. The N-A-P has to do with the supposed assumption that no one should ever engage in any type of aggression or violation of individual sovereignty or rights, because that violates the NAP. But it's also a worldview where there are no moral obligations, no oughts. There's no normativity, at least in most of these philosophies, because if we get into David Hume and the is-ought problem, there's not typically a solution to this. Why ought we follow this moral prescription versus some other one, or none at all? Oh, well, just because it'll help you flourish. Well, what does it mean to flourish? That's another presupposition. That's another argument or assertion based on the idea that there are values. Value judgments can't be derived from the states of matter. And so if you have an assumed, a presupposed materialist philosophy, you're not going to have any way to justify or give an account for the moral prescriptions or the ethical norms that you want to have. And every society requires ethical norms. In fact, to say that it's wrong to violate the NAP is to make an ethical claim, an ethical argument. It's wrong to do so. But you can't ground your moral claims if there's no transcendent. And that's the thing, is that the assumptions of the worldview of the classical liberal from the outset exclude God's existence and the supernatural and the transcendent. And it begins to argue from a materialist perspective to then sort of leap to these unjustified metaphysical claims about rights. What are rights? Many libertarians, not all, but many are atheists. They're atheist materialists. And if you're an atheist materialist, there's no such thing as a right. Is it a social construct? Is it something that the government gives to you? Why, no, of course not. The government doesn't accord you rights. You have your rights. Oh, where are the rights under the microscope? Just like laws of logic, just like meaning in terms of linguistic philosophy, just like ideas like love, obligation, ideas like virtue, vice, the good. None of those things are found under a microscope. And so if you want to have a scientism-based, empiricist-based worldview, as many of them do, there's no justification for anything outside of bare matter. So all of these other things that aren't reducible to or don't in any way equate to molecules are really fictions or social constructs. So actually the TRANZ people, and they just elected a Skittles man for who's pro all of that to their Libertarian party ticket, whatever, nomination. I mean, he's just been consistent with the atheist presuppositions of the whole worldview. Now, we've been arguing this for I don't know how many years. Every libertarian debate that we have, the libertarian absolutely collapses into a puddle of whining filth, like Austin Peterson, They're absolute jokes. They can't handle the slightest bit of pushback. They don't know anything about argumentation, logic, and philosophy. And that includes Kokesh, Austin Peterson, Robert Taylor, and even Stefan Molyneux. Now, Molyneux, I think, fared the best of that crowd. Maybe Robert Taylor. But all of that crowd, at least the ones I debated, are specifically atheist agnostic and don't even know what the Izot problem is. Now, maybe nowadays, maybe a couple of libertarians have picked up on this fundamental philosophical problem, even though we've been hammering it for over 10 years. But my critiques of Jordan Peterson over the years also fit into this domain. We critiqued his classical liberalism umpteenth million times. And still, people just can't grasp this. I don't know what the problem is. And I don't know what the problem is overall. I guess everyone is just sort of pretending like... I think people think, well, I'll just pretend that that's not an issue. I'll hand wave it and then I don't care. But it's almost like they never even understand what the issues are. Oh, that's just a bunch of philosophy wrangling. I don't have to worry about that. What do you mean? Like, your whole ethos comes out of Enlightenment philosophers that I'm talking about. Did you even know that Kant, who, by the way, was a huge proponent of neo or liberal laissez-faire economic theory, Kant thought that if you had totally open trade globally, you would have world peace and world government. He wrote an essay on it. Other Enlightenment theorists of laissez-faire also incline in this direction. Oh, well, we won't have wars anymore because we have free trade. How naive and stupid. As if wars just come from economic factors. Wars come because human beings are fallen. And they have a tendency towards vice. So libertarianism typically is premised on an assumption that there's not a fallen world and that man is not fallen. Rather, man's problems are societal and economic. Oh, who else has that exact same presupposition? Marxists. Marxists also presuppose that there's no fallen man. It's just man's badly educated and he's affected by societal issues. And this causes him to choose bad things and he's oppressed by the bourgeoisie, blah, blah, blah. Now, the other thing that always blows the minds of the libertarians when we talk about this is that you've noticed some of the popular wealthy people out there, say Klaus Schwab, who are portrayed as global capitalists, which is somewhat accurate. Why do they have busts of people like V.I. Lenin? Why do so many high-level capitalists like David Rockefeller have such a fascination and a long history of supporting Marxism? People like David Rockefeller's professor Harold Lasky. Why does he write multiple New York Times editorials praising Chairman Mao? And this is, of course, something that the boomers can never get. I've only seen one or two boomers ever accept this issue. We were talking about this yesterday after church. For some reason, this is the issue that just the boomer can't get this. And I think it has to do with them being, growing up in the Cold War, and it just seems too difficult to accept. The idea that the wealthiest people on the planet, and I'm not talking about local millionaires. Okay, I'm not talking about the local, auto trim design, pimp my Honda Civic millionaire. I'm talking about the zillionaires, baby. Why do they love socialism and or Marxism? Because Marxism, socialism have always been a favored element and tool of the moneyed elite. Not all the moneyed elite, but many of the moneyed elite. The 0.0001%. Okay, the zillionaires. That's precisely why Ford built the Gorky Auto Park for the Soviets. Why would Ford Automotive build a giant Soviet automotive park? Why would they build all these other factories, all these other operations for the Soviets? Because they're secret communists. They're the secret communists. This is a libertarian idiot level argumentation out there, right? The people that buy Yuri Bezmenov at face value, right? Even Quigley says that the French Revolution was funded by Protestant and other banking elites. So you go all the way back to the French Revolution with its commune, with its Jacobins, funded by very, very wealthy people. And this is very well documented in history. I just can't fathom why people can't figure this out. It's a conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory. Who is pushing most of what we're going under today when it comes to the socialism, Fabian socialism that's emerging? Is it the government? Kinda. But the government can't do that everywhere. But who has tentacles everywhere to do that? Why the Fortune 100, Fortune 500? Why would they be pushing all of this? So you understand this right here destroys the classic libertarian narrative of its private interests versus the state. No, dude, our state was long ago captured by private interests. So AmGov is just another corporation working in lockstep and in tandem with the other corporations. And that should be really obvious. I can't figure out why people can't figure this out. I mean, did the last few years of COOF not obviously demonstrate to this to anyone with a decent IQ? Was it the state or was it the private interests? Who was doing COOF? Oh, it was all of them. The answer is all the above. That's who. Because they're all working for the same entities. And look at the revolving door phenomenon, okay? Who's in the Trilateral Commission? Who goes to Bilderberg? Who's in the CFR? Is it government people or people in the state? I can't figure it out. It's both. It's a revolving door. They go from one to the other because the state is a captured corporate entity and has been for a long time. So this whole narrative of the libertarians versus the statists is itself a false dialectic. And it's not that hard to figure that out. How can people not figure this out? This is like super obvious. You don't even have to go that deep into history. I have a history degree. I almost have a double degree. I'm like 2 classes from a double in philosophy and history, undergrad. I had mainline professors explaining a lot of this to me in undergrad. So but people don't read books, man. They're not interested in what's actually the case. I mean, everybody's just a bunch of dang slow boys. Slow boy nation, man. That's what I'm talking about. So back to the libertarian ethos of the Enlightenment. Look, it's only as good as the classical liberalism is. And if the classical liberalism fails, I'm not talking about everything about it, okay? I understand that there are legitimate grievances and opposition to corruption in the late Middle Ages. Well aware of it. And, the corruption in the Roman Catholic Church, which we have covered a zillion times on this channel, right? That contributes to it. But not every answer, not every solution that comes out of the Enlightenment is necessarily the best option. Nor does it mean that the people proposing those solutions, the David Ricardos, the Adam Smiths, the Immanuel Kants, the John Locke's, it doesn't mean that they have the best paradigm either. A person can get certain things right and have a totally jacked up paradigm. You don't see that? And really, the history of America is this entity with a bunch of colluding and colliding philosophies and ideas influencing its start, its emergence, its documents, its founding documents, founding fathers, etc. And the history of America was America figuring out which of its many presuppositions and worldviews and conflicting paradigms it would choose to be more consistent with. Would it go in the direction of the Christian, biblical, Roman law influence? Would it go in the direction of its Masonic, Enlightenment, deist influence? because it has both. So the whole history of America, I would say, is kind of the struggle to determine which of these paths we would go. And unfortunately, we have continually chosen the worst path here. We've chosen more and more and more to move away from the explicitly Christian values, which don't make sense with the Enlightenment, natural philosophy, natural theology assumptions of America. In God we trust. What God? The God of the deists and the Freemasons? The God of Roman Catholicism, which is also natural theology? The same as the deists and the Freemasons? Jesus as the one true God? The I am that I am? Do you see how, right, natural philosophy, natural theology, Masonic philosophy, Enlightenment philosophy, well, they happen to all kind of overlap, don't they? Yeah, because they're pretty much the same in their assumptions. So America, unfortunately, has consistently chosen, for a long time, worse and worse and worse options. It's like America's here, got two wolves inside of him. Like, do I want to go with the gay wolf? Do I want to go with the alpha Chad wolf? And America's like consistently saying, "Ooh, I'm going to choose the gay wolf. Ooh, I want to be more gay over her." Oh, right. That's the choice. That's the bad choice. Virtue versus vice. And that's just the philosophical critique, the metaphysical critique. Let's get a little more into the metaphysical critique. They're always talking about rights, freedom, liberty. Okay, those are metaphysical concepts. A giant portion of these idiot atheists don't even believe in free will. They're determinists. So how are you going to have a libertarian philosophy if you're a metaphysical determinist? This is just idiotic. I'm speaking to the atheist libertarians.
Well, I've got a good argument to prove that there is actually libertarian freedom, even though I'm a materialist and I believe that everything is purely chemical reactions. There is still freedom.
Oh, well, really, what's freedom if you don't believe in personhood? We're not made in the image of God. There is no God. We're just manifestations of primordial muck. So what's freedom? Freedom from what? To do what? So you understand that they have no basis for virtue ethics. The whole ethos of libertarianism is part of utilitarian ethics. Ethics based on outcome, supposedly, and the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. And the idiots at the time of the Enlightenment, like Bentham, who was a PEDO. So guess what? Libertarianism, with its present-day Skittles people, they were Skittles 400, 500 years ago. Okay, Jeremy Bentham and his idiot cronies think, I'm not kidding, they're the spurgs of their time. They thought that they could come up with a moral calculus, an algorithm that would tell you the right choices in different situations. That's how stupid this is. And also they thought, well, we can also come up with pleasure points and we can figure out the best thing for all of society, the best happiness points, Kuhn points for all of society to make all of society happy. And we'll do it with math. This is how ridiculous this worldview is. Now, I'm sure plenty of libertarians don't believe in any of that anymore, or they realize that that's kind of ridiculous. But this is why you get these weird, bizarre manifestations of their choices for who represents them. I mean, it's pathetic. It's laughable. And this is not a new phenomenon. They were going woke 2016 or earlier. Even when one of the first debate that we did on this channel, that was a big public debate, was 2015 or so, Adam Kokesh. Okay. So at that time, Adam Kokesh was like the front running person for libertarianism. Or at least he wanted to be. And maybe he was the libertarian nominee. I don't remember. But he was like, at one time, he was like 250,000 on YouTube, like the big libertarian. This is even before, I think, Molyneux had like a huge, million subscriber libertarian channel. And even back then, the debate was exactly the same, right? So we're talking about the crop of goobers 10 years ago that we had to debate with, who completely demolished themselves in all the debates that we had. Here we are 10 years later, and we're still debating the same crop of goober philosophy that is so low tier. But, and as I said at the time, don't you understand that this is within the circle of allowed discussion? Okay, the system doesn't mind you debating and discussing all this libertarian crap, because libertarianism is never going to change anything. So it's within the acceptable sphere of what can be discussed. Now, at times, libertarians and people from within libertarianism or Austrian economics, they make really good points. They write really good books. They come up with really good inventions. They call out things. Peter Schiff accurately called out the 2008 housing collapse. The cypherpunks invent Bitcoin. So I'm not hating every person. I'm talking about the Enlightenment presuppositions of classical liberalism. That's the problem here. And all the motivations from these schools and these philosophies is never anything more than a pleasure-based, outcome-based ethics of the common good. So there's no objective right and wrong. There's no duties. There's only outcome-based pleasure points, coom points. So what action am I going to choose? Well, this one gives 1 million people 25 coom points. They can coom 25 times. This other option only allows 500,000 people to coom 20 times. Therefore, the first option is better. You see how stupid this is? And again, there's all kinds of philosophies that we can run through, or philosophical critiques to critique utilitarian ethics, because again, this is what it's based on for the most part. In fact, Sam Bankman-Fried started a foundation of some kind of nonsense, taking from Bentham's utilitarian ethics and this moral calculus idea that they were going to start the Happiness Foundation, or it's some gay title like that. And they're going to make everybody happy with their coom points and their crypto. Oh, shocker, it was all a giant quasi-cult money laundering Ponzi scheme. Shocker. We talked about that with Richard Grove, but I forget the name of his. The Society for something altruism. Society for, somebody in the chat will know. Put it in the chat if you remember. But the point is that we can give other types of critiques. For example, there's nothing in utilitarian ethics that tells us that we're supposed to prefer the greater number of people's happiness versus a quantitative happiness of one individual. So in other words, let's say that, to go along with this dumb argument, that we could quantify coom points or happiness points. Okay, so let's say that me, as the Kwisatz Haderach, enslaving a giant harem, a village of Amazon women to make them into my, my harem of bishes. I get, as an individual Kwisatz Haderach, God Emperor, I get like 7,000 pleasure coom points from doing that as an individual. But, on the other hand, we can also dole out 1 million Kit Kat bars to 1 million people, but that only equates to 4,300 pleasure points. Because you understand, a person getting a Kit Kat is not one full pleasure point. It's like 0.003 pleasure points in the pleasure point moral calculus algorithm. I'm not joking. This is their dumb argument. So between these two, how would we know which one is the right option to choose? Right, so I can take all my time and effort as the voluntarily chosen Kwisatz Haderach of Libertaria. We'll call it Libertaria. I'm the Kwisatz Haderach of Libertaria. All right. How do we know which one is the preferable choice? Because you understand that to say the greatest number of the greatest amount of happiness or pleasure for the greatest number of people, how do we know that we're supposed to choose the greater number versus the individual qualitative pleasure? What if I get so much more pleasure as an individual out of having my harem versus the very minimal amount of pleasure that the village gets by getting a free Kit Kat? Do you understand this is arbitrary? That's why this is dumb. There's nothing that tells you that that's preferable. And in fact, we can make it more absurd and turn it into things like BDS, type stuff, right? If an individual psycho serial killer gets high amounts of pleasure from doing those things versus everybody in the village getting low amounts of pleasure from a free Kit Kat or something like that, you see how silly this is. There's also all kinds of other obvious critiques of the non-aggression principle. First of all, why are we supposed to think that's a self-evident principle? When I look at nature, I don't see nature operating on a non-aggression principle. I see a lot of predator-prey operations in nature. I see a lot of aggression. So why am I supposed to think that I'm supposed to abide by an NAP? Oh, well, society won't flourish. Well, I don't give a shit about society. I want me to flourish. I'm the damn Kwisatz Haderach. Okay, I'm setting up my God Emperor dynasty. Give a shit about you. Also, plus I'm the Kwisatz Haderach, so you can't refute that. Anyway, so the point is that this is a classic ethical critique that's made of utilitarian ethics, and I'm not knocking every libertarian, but most libertarians haven't looked into the critiques of utilitarian ethics. That's the point. And we're going to open it up here in a second. I'm going to go to my friend Top Lobster. Well, he's the top lobster. He's the top of the hierarchy. It's like one guy calls in, and it's like, is he the top lobster? Yes. Excuse me, my Jordan is a little off today because I've been drinking Evanescence. Wake me up inside, can't save me from the nothing I become. Oh, I'm gonna be burping all the time now. Another point about the NAP, and then we'll open it up. Again, I got a million critiques. I'm gonna stop here though because I've been fussing this whole time. We got a bunch of people in line. By the way, we don't have to talk about libertarianism only today. If you're a Catholic, if you're a Protestant, if you're a Calvinist, an evangelical, a Muslim, an atheist, you're welcome to call in. Somebody said, you don't never debate Jews, dude. Do you know how many Jews have ever called in to debate? Ever? Absolutely zero. So what do you mean? There was one offer to debate a Jewish guy like 5 years ago, and he wanted to debate Masonry and Pythagoreanism. I don't give a shit about Masonry and Pythagorean. I'm not going to debate that. And then another Jewish guy the other day said, I want a big debate. You owe me this debate. I don't owe you a debate. By the way, it was a small channel anyway. So Jews don't believe that they have to go out and proselytize. Okay, so they're kind of like Buddhists. People, why won't you debate a Buddhist? Literally, people were asking me that. You don't debate Buddhists. Buddhists don't proselytize. Jews don't proselytize. So they're not doing apologetics unless they feel like Judaism is being encroached upon or they're having some disturbance in Israel or something. Then they'll debate one of these Messianic people. Okay, that's the only time they debate. Usually. Anyway, last point about utilitarian ethics and the idea of the NAP. Again, going back to the presuppositions of utilitarian ethics. One of the problems with this is the assumption that most NAP people have is that it's physical aggression. Well, that's not the only way that I can aggress people, okay? I can engage in subterfuge and economic warfare. I can engage in toxic cultural warfare. If you go back to the Kokesh debate from 10 years ago, he was mystified when I brought up toxic culture and cultural war, which is a very fundamental aspect of how warfare goes on. Like we saw with all this degeneracy. This is part of culture war. This book that we've been covering, Sex Espionage. I mean, the whole damn book that Whitney Webb wrote. about Jeff Stein McGeffrey, culture war. And then Adam Kokesh is over here, what's culture war? What even is that? What even is that? Yeah, exactly. Like Bryson Gray level.
What that is, what that is, what that is.
Fallacy.
What that is.
So, for example, in a utilitarian system, if we are always, for example, to prefer the greatest number, the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people, for example, there's nothing that prevents me in that ethical system from not physically engaging in subterfuge, but engaging in all kinds of underhanded economic warfare or psyops or whatever against my neighbors and my enemy or my economic competition. I spread lies in the community about the rival cookie company and that they're putting gay sprinkles in the cookies that are making everyone gay, not just the frogs, right? Did I aggress anyone? It's not true. I didn't physically aggress them. So I didn't violate any utilitarian ethical problems. Another one of the classic critiques, too, is the example of you could actually argue that punishing innocent people is viable in this worldview if it causes a high level of satisfaction and peace and ease to the greatest number of people. So, for example, let's say there's a serial killer on the loose. We don't know who it is. He's just ripping up people left and right in the village, right? He's Jeffrey Badonkadonkin on a daily basis, and we don't know what to do. So me and the village elders, the council, I'm the Kwisatz Haderach, we sit down and we say, you know what? We got this slow boy over here that's really annoying, okay, and we don't like him. Now, he's not actually the serial killer, but you know what? For the safety and security of Dyer Village, we're going to say that slow boy over here is our Jeffrey Badonkadonk serial killer. And we'll hold a public trial and all of that. And because, getting justice, even if it's not the right dude, why, it provides a whole heap of security and ease on the part of the entire village. And so what's better, that one man die or that the whole nation die? That's from the Gospels, by the way. No, this whole system is only as good as its classical libertarian ethos and its utilitarian ethics, which is to say, not very good. Now, does that mean I'm against private property? No. Does that mean I'm against having a business and making a profit? No. There's a lot of good points in this economic system and in these theories. But the presuppositions are off. And so the system is not going to work because it presupposes an atheistic, materialistic ethos. It denies obligations and collective metaphysical realities, that you're part of a family, part of a tribe, part of a nation state, and that part, in part, makes up who you are. Libertarianism says, no, I'm just me. I ain't got no obligations to nobody but myself. Bruh. So you become the atomized individual. By the way, none of this is anything even remotely connected to historic Christianity, which believes in a leader who is anointed and coronated by the church. It's called a coronation ceremony. And that's literally almost always been a king or an emperor. And this is all ultimately to place economics as the center of man's meaning, life, and activities. It's not by accident that after the Enlightenment, what becomes the center of every city? Is it a giant cathedral? You go to European cities, what's in the center? Giant cathedral. Now what's in the center of the city? Damn banks, giant ass banks everywhere. Okay. Also, by the way, usury is not right. Pretty much every Enlightenment libertarian person, going back to their libertarian forefathers, classical liberals, is always out there defending usury. So there we go. All right, we're going to open it up. It doesn't have to be about Enlightenment liberalism and all this kind of stuff. If you want to talk about any of the other theological positions, topics you want to debate, you can have the floor. You can talk as long as you want. Somebody says, do you have an OF? Yes, I do. And it's only me wearing yogurt pants. Did I say yoga pants? I said yogurt pants. You don't know what those are? You're going to have to subscribe to my OF to figure it out. And it's not pretty. And it's not cheap. But hey, I'm providing the greatest number of pleasure points by me flexing my booty muscles in my yogurt pants to the greatest number of people. So go chew on that, son. Kagri. Kagri? Can't read your Turkish script. What's up, Turk? You gotta unmute, man. Unmute, man.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I was in another space room, and if I may, I want to read you something from Quran regarding the Mary.
From what?
And Mary, Mother Mary.
You said from something. I want to read from something.
From Quran. From Quran.
What?
Quran.
Quran?
Quran. Yes,
Okay.
Quran. Uh-huh.
Okay, go ahead.
And I wonder your reaction. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, go.
It's okay.
Let me give. I got my Quran right here. Where you at?
Okay. Surah Imran family.
What?
30.
Just tell me the number. I can't tell what you're saying.
And now, I can't tell his number because the source in front of me did not receive it, but let me check it from Google.
Okay. Tell you what, you go find that, and we'll come back to you here in a minute. We'll come back. We'll come back to you in a minute. You find that, just request to speak again. I'll come back to you next. I promise. Knock Castle, what's up? Somebody said Amazon customer support called me up. Todd Lobster, where you at, dude? You dropped off. I was looking forward to talking to you. He just keeps popping out. Top Lobster. It's like the guy called Top Lobster. It's like he calls in, and then he's gone. Go ahead, man. Guys, you got to have your mic permission turned on if you want to come on and talk. And then you got to unmute. James McPhee.
Right, yeah, sure.
Hey.
You don't want to be there.
What?
How's it going, Jay? How are you?
Oh, yeah, that was a Jordan Peterson. Okay, what's up, man?
Not too bad. Yeah, I was just wondering, is it worth having a conversation that in all of Christendom, with after the Reformation, now before the Reformation, we kind of lived in a theocracy. God was number one in our society and our civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had the Reformation, and out of that you had John Locke liberalism and Enlightenment. And I think the God for liberal and a libertarian is individual freedom. I think that's their God.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's the same premise as Crowley, right? Do what thou wilt.
Oh, and Neo-pagans have witches, Wicca people believe in something similar as well.
Well, the Neo-pagans and the Wicca actually comes from Crowley. So Gerald Gardner, who's the father of modern Wicca, studied the ranks of the OTO, which is Crowley's thing, before he created Wicca. So it's a completely ahistorical, made-up thing. In fact, we were laughing. I did a whole live stream making fun of his the documentary about his grimoire. Dude literally wrote his grimoire on legal pad. Okay, we're supposed to think this is some ancient text. It's written on damn legal pad, bro.
That's hilarious.
It is funny, but anyway, yeah, I think you're right that, and I forgot to mention that libertarians and Marxists have the exact same end goal. They all believe in the withering away of the state. Oh, you didn't know Marx was a libertarian, did you?
Yeah, and for the Marxists, their God, more than likely, maybe it's a bit of a straw man, but more than likely their God is the community and equality, and that's the God that they worship.
Yes, at the lower levels, the highest levels of them are Satanists and Luciferians, explicitly. So read the book Marx and Satan by Richard Wurmbrand, for example. Okay, our Turkish friend is back. Can't even pronounce it. So what's the surah?
Yes, it is 333 to 337. I will read.
Okay.
Okay, I'm beginning. Indeed, Allah favored Adam, Noah, family of Abraham, and family of Imran, being from each other's lineage, over the people of the time. And Allah is the one who hears best, knows best. When the wife of Imran, mother of the Mary, said, "My Rab, I surely have devoted what's in my womb for you," referring that she wants to raise Mary as a clergy and a man of God. "Accept it from me. You surely are the one who hears best, knows best." And when she delivered her, she said, "My Rab, I have definitely delivered a female." Parenthesis, Allah speaks now, yet Allah knows better what she has delivered. Now please note this down. Wife of Imran says she was asking for a male to raise him as a man of book and a man of religion, but as Mary born as a female, she was surprised. You see, she was actually didn't want it because she wants to raise a man of religion. And Allah says here, Allah knows better what she has delivered. This is important. Please note this down. And Allah keeps talking. Male is not like female. Wife of Imran keeps talking. Male is not like female there. Referring that females cannot be clergy there. And surely I have named her Mary, and indeed I make her and her descendants.
What's the argument here?
I'm coming now fast. I'm coming. So her Rab accepted Mary with a beautiful acceptance. Now I'm reading 37. And he made her grow as a beautiful plant. Okay, please also note this down. He made her grow as a beautiful plant. And made Zechariah a guarantor to Mary that she did not deliver Jesus unlawfully.
Bro, I can't understand half of what you're saying. What's the argument, man?
Argument here, look, this is my argument is related to Mary's gender there. And Allah said, while the wife of the Imran says,
Mary's gender? I mean, and does somebody question Mary's gender? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, bro, this is not even on topic. No idea what you're saying. I'm not trying to be mean to you, but man, this is just like, what does Mary's gender have to do with anything that we're talking about? And who even questions Mary's gender? I mean, sorry, man, I can't. Anglo-Viet.
Hey, Jay, how you doing?
Hey.
I had a question for you on Islam. So I'm an Orthodox Christian. I was Christian on Holy Saturday, but I had a question on...
Congratulations.
Thank you. I had a question on this whole idea of Abrahamic religions. So you put it in a tweet a couple days ago or weeks ago about how we don't believe in the same God, as Muslims, just because they say, oh, we believe this historical person of Abraham, we believe that he worshipped this God. So that means we believe in the same God, but just interpret it differently. And I just wanted to hear your take on this because
you understand that Muslims will tell you very clearly that it's not the Trinity. So Muslims tell you it's not the same God. So the only people making up this idea that we all worship the same God is the people who believe in Roman Catholic natural theology.
No, I hear this from ecumenistic Muslims too.
Right. Okay, but that's true.
But my argument against them usually is that, well, you can't make this lower common denominator be the God of Abraham or whatever. Because, like, who's to say that a Hindu can't claim that, oh, we believe in the same creator, we believe...
Well, I mean, that's what Vatican II...
or whatever.
Vatican II's Nostra Aetate says Hindus are part of that natural theology.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Nostra Aetate says Hindus also worship the one true God.
Well, my argument against them is that, well, we can't use this historical person of Abraham as our indicator of we just believe in the same intended God, but just interpret it differently. And my argument would be like, well, a Hindu can just say we believe in the same creator, or a Zoroastrian, or a Jew, or a Gnostic, or whatever. So our starting point has to be Christ, because like that's central to.
Well, it's Christ and the triad, right? And every Orthodox person knows that Abraham worshipped the triad.
Exactly.
That's the point of the Rublev icon. So.
Yeah. All right. I just wanted to hear.
Yeah, I mean, there's other points too, which is like you get really philosophical with it. It's called the indiscernibility of intentionality in epistemic context, right? So just because the word, for example, monotheism is used, we don't necessarily know who the referent is. Like you're pointing out, I could be a theistic Satanist, and I believe in one God, you believe in one God, therefore we believe in the same God. But just because
differently, yeah.
Well, isn't that the whole point, though? What do you mean, just interpret it differently? Well, yeah, exactly. Interpret it differently means different reference. Your one God is Jesus. My one God is Satan. So you can't get around this by saying, well, it's just interpreted differently.
Exactly.
Right, because it's also the quantifier shift fallacy, right? That's like saying, well, I come from one mother, you come from one mother, therefore we all come from the same mother. That's a fallacy.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for answering that.
Yeah, those are good points. I think you make a great point there about how to respond to some of these types of arguments. Let's see. By the way, if we got some Black Hebrew Israelites that want to call in, we've got Muslims that want to call in, it doesn't have to be about libertarianism. King Elisar, he's been waiting for a long time.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't want to take up too much time, but I've been kind of just getting into a lot of these differences between Catholicism and Orthodoxy, so it's kind of sent me down the rabbit hole. But I had, firstly, just wanted to pick your brain on this. Are you aware that Bonaventure attempts to ground a type, because I'm very captivated by the transcendental argument rather than natural theology. Like, natural theology just seems dangerous to me. So I want to find a sort of, and I know you might think this is impossible, but are you aware that Bonaventure at least attempts to ground a type of Catholic presuppositionalism? Like, I have a quotation, but you probably might be aware of this already.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that time when you had more of an influence of Augustinian thought, you might have people tending towards those types of moves, but it's still not going to be tag. I mean, I think Richard of St. Victor, like he tried to show that there's trinities in nature, but I mean, he's getting that from like people in the Orthodox East, like St. Maximus, who thinks that there's little trinities in nature. So. But that isn't necessarily the same thing as the transcendental argument, where we're trying to ground knowledge as a whole in God.
Right, but wouldn't you say that the transcendental argument comes from sort of seedlings? It's not explicitly said in the Fathers, but it's based, Van Til, I think, is a Calvinist, but it's not explicitly said in the Fathers, but we can still use it as Orthodox.
Well, John Damascus explicitly does use a transcendental argument. So in the Fount of Knowledge, that's the first page.
Yeah, I was reading that reference. Could you explain that a little to me? Because I was trying to understand. I wanted an explicit grounding from the Church Fathers to, support it.
I mean, it's the first page of the Fount of Knowledge. He says that, what would we say to somebody who, denied the possibility of logic or argumentation at all? And he says that, well, you would still be using logic and argumentation to argue against logic and argumentation. So, and he's just pulling that from Aristotle's metaphysics. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll look into that. And then secondly, this is sort of more on topic with the whole libertarian thing. It just got me thinking. Sorry, what did you say?
I said, go ahead.
Yeah. I know you do like film interpretation stuff with Esoteric Hollywood, right?
Yeah, I wrote 2 books and did a TV show.
Yeah, so it's going to sound kind of retarded, but I'm kind of retarded in this way. Have you ever, in Nolan's Batman trilogy and the final one, do you see, and I know Nolan's all over the place with his sort of thing, but it's still interesting, there's a sort of juxtaposition between, at the final speech of the antagonist, sort of going on and on about a sort of Marxist.
Yeah, I in fact, I commented on the libertarian elements versus communist elements when I first wrote analysis back at the time.
Oh, did you comment on this specifically?
Yeah.
Okay, then I thought I was bringing something, but that's interesting. But you do see the sort of like
Yeah.
almost Mephistophelian.
Yeah, I wrote a whole essay on it. Yeah, you can go. I'm not trying to be rude, but yeah, you can go read my essay on Dark Knight and all that. Jonathan Tata, what's up, dude?
Can you hear me?
Say what?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, kind of. What's up, man?
Yeah, it was good. I've been following you for a while. I'm an Orthodox Christian as well. I have a question about the tag argument.
Okay.
Yeah. Why isn't it problematic that the argument is circular? I keep hearing you say that it's because the argument is a meta-logical argument, but I can't really understand why it solves the problem.
Right, because it's making the point that at a certain level, all authority claims will be circular. So that's just restating the point that there's nothing that's self-evident.
Yeah, but can't anybody just make such a claim? And can't anybody just make
because then you would have to give an account for the possibility of knowledge through how your system is coherent. So it's not saying that everybody's systems are circular, so we're all just caught in circularity. It's saying that at a basic level, since nothing is self-evident and all ultimate authority claims are going to be self-referencing. For example, can you define words without using words? Or can you explain meaning without assuming that words have meaning? No. So at a very basic level, a lot of things end up being circular like this. It doesn't mean all arguments are circular. So that's 2 different things. That's why there's different types of logic, different types of claims about logic. There's first order, second order. So second order or meta level is like raising it to a higher level, right? There's the proposition P is true, or P therefore Q, and then there's the truth of the proposition P therefore Q, or a statement about the proposition P therefore Q, and then there's a statement about the statement P therefore Q. So these are all just raising the bar at a higher level, and that can go on into infinity. That's the point of Tortoise and Achilles by Lewis Carroll. So you don't understand how that's different than saying that.
Okay. Another question is, how do you justify the Orthodox position as the only valid one?
So we've done about 20 podcasts on this. You can go look it up. But I'm not really wanting to rehash all the tag arguments today. I've literally done probably 20 podcasts and talks on how do we get to tag, or how do we get to Orthodoxy from tag. Justin, what's up, man?
Oh, hey, am I the speaker now?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Oh, hey. So, I just want to say I appreciate your positions on libertarianism. I was very much libertarian for a while and have been moving away from that, in part thanks to people like you really, showing it for what it is and how without moral underpinning it is very much, more... self-serving and, pleasure-seeking than anything else. So, my main question I was going to bring up today was, so I'm a Protestant. I guess you could say evangelical. I'm not sure, really how people define that. But I'm looking at Orthodoxy, pretty heavily recently. And something I've noticed is that, the procession argument of between Catholics and Orthodox seems to be a very, very big issue, and I don't know why. I've studied, I've been through a lot of studies of the Holy Spirit.
Because it's a difference between a monarchical Trinitarianism and true monotheism, namely that there's one God, the Father Almighty, versus a dyad, a father-son that becomes a new unity that precedes a third person.
So the Catholic position then is the dyad. Is that what you're saying? Because
that's our argument
from the Father. Okay. So you say the point, the reason that is a point of contention is because it ultimately affects the nature of the God that is being worshipped.
Correct, and then there's a bunch of things that flow from that mistake. So we think that created grace flows from that mistake, because ultimately even filioque doesn't stand alone as like a sole problem in a vacuum. The filioque is a result of absolute divine simplicity, which is the Latin view of adopting essentially the Neoplatonic definition of what divine simplicity is, and that's what leads to the speculations about ways to differentiate the persons via a double hypostatic procession, namely the filioque. So that then leads to created grace, which is a Roman Catholic dogma. That then leads to other problems in the papacy basically becoming the vehicle through which the Holy Spirit comes to the church. None of that would have ever had happened had they not had this mistake in the triad. And if you want to read a good book on that, it's called Church Papacy Schism by Philip Sherrard.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I was going to ask if you had a reference reading, so I will definitely make a note of that and dig in, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good questions. Also, we've lectured through Sishansky's whole filioque book, so you can go find that podcast too on the filioque. Hot Texas Homestead. Yikes! It sounds like them fat people in the Lost Highway filming dirty movies. That's a joke. What's up, Homestead? Home Slice.
What's up, Pastor Balls?
Hey! We miss you down at church. We want you to give an offering.
$2. $2 offering for the mega food.
Everything counts.
I got a question. So I'm trying to figure out how to word, but how do you, rectify with the Eastern Orthodox position and excuse me for sounding off. I'm just still trying to figure out how it words, but how do you rectify the position with the church to like American? You probably discussed a little bit about it earlier. I didn't catch the entirety of your talk, but how do you rectify it with the classical liberal, position, or the
why do I have to reconcile it? What do you mean?
No, just the foundation of the American system with the Constitution. Not really rectifying, but how do you explain the Eastern Orthodox position with it when the Eastern Orthodox they're part of the state? Would that be correct in your argument?
Part of the state? I don't understand what you mean.
Well, it would the church is part of the state, right? The church is, because there's not a separation of church and state.
Well, we don't try to force. We can't force the government to be, holding to what we think is the traditional position. And the church is not. The church can exist in any country. The Roman pagan empire didn't accept that position of the Orthodox Church, right? So it really has nothing to do with, I don't have to reconcile Orthodoxy to American government. It's just.
Yeah, I get that, and I'm just trying to question how because you were speaking about the a preferred system would be the church.
We don't go for politics first, so just like in the early church, they didn't try to force everybody into some right-wing political system. They converted the empire, and then the empire converted. So likewise, we would convert America We're not trying to top down make the government orthodox. That'd be a giant failure. Cassius, what's up? But thank you for that question. You got to unmute, man.
Am I on?
Mm-hmm.
So I was curious, in the book of Daniel, there seem to be these mistakes, like they call Belshazzar the king. And
we already did this. We've already had this conversation with you. Zechariah, what's up? You got to unmute, man. This guy just loves to call in and like complain about the book of Daniel. He does it all the time. Go ahead, Zechariah. You got to unmute, man.
What's up, Jay? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So I was going over your disproving the 5 ways of Aquinas, and you mentioned how it doesn't logically follow that there needs to be an ultimate cause if when you're from empiricism.
Correct.
That's your starting point.
Correct.
So with regards to Hume, you mentioned
To what?
Hume, David Hume.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned the Billard balls and the causation, and that we see event A and event B, but we don't see.
Right. We call that causation. We're not literally seeing causation. Right.
Right, and I'm not, I'm a Christian, but I just was wondering. Obviously, could it be argued, or from my perspective, I just need more clarity, I guess. Like, we see the one ball hitting the other ball, and we see it. I mean, we call it causation,
right?
And I know that's just a name we've given
right.
it, but I'm just wondering how you wouldn't, like, we can. Surely you could empirically test like the one ball hitting the other or something.
Yeah, but if you read David Hume again, he points out that testing this does not prove that it is the thing. So, in other words, you can test it all you want. It doesn't prove that it's an actual metaphysical principle out in reality, because you never know that regularity in nature is actually a real thing out there, or that it always holds. So the point is that it assumes induction. How do you prove induction empirically? You can't.
Okay. So you can assume that that's what's happening, but then you couldn't then say that that's just how
right.
everything is.
Yeah, and it begs the question to assume that that's what's happening, because that's what's in question.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, and we're not saying that it's not what's happening. We're just pointing out that calling it causation is an interpretation of the phenomena. The phenomena itself does not give you a raw experience of causation, unless you assume that it does, but that's the thing in question. So in other words, it ends up being a metaphysical assumption that's not proven by the phenomena. It's a metaphysical assumption read into the phenomena, and it is true that it is causation is occurring, but the way that we know that and justify that is because we have metaphysical presuppositions part of a worldview, not that the actual empirical data gives us this like raw experience of causation. Because you can never prove that empirically. It's always just assumed. So the point is that empiricism is not true. In empirical philosophies, that is, I'm not saying that we don't have an empirical element to our philosophy. Empiricist philosophies are false.
So is it kind of similar to the problem of induction, where
it
you
is.
Can't just say, just because you see it,
absolutely.
You can't just say, oh, universally it's the case that causation is a thing.
Absolutely, correct.
Okay. All right. Cheers, Joe.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Hume is just making the same argument for these different domains. He's saying telos is not self-evident, causation is not self-evident, induction is not self-evident, laws of logic are not self-evident. They seem to be the case, but how do I justify that without assuming the thing in question, if I'm an empiricist?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, Hume's interesting because he is, like you say all the time, he's just very honest, and he takes these things to their logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Kind of shoots the entire empiricist enterprise in the foot.
Exactly.
Not consistent these days.
Absolutely, and that's why we utilize his argumentation, not accepting his worldview, but pointing out those are good arguments. If I'm an empiricist, I should be consistent, and that leads me to Humean skepticism. Well, if I'm a Humean skeptic, then I don't get to use all these arguments as if they're self-evident or against Christianity. Now, to that guy that was in the chat over here on YouTube saying Jesus is not the Messiah, Jesus was not Hebrew. This is just idiotic. So Tenebris, if you want to come into the chat, you're welcome to. There's the link to the call-in. All right, Dusty Balls. I know I'm going to get some quality argumentation from Dusty Balls. He is the cousin of Randy Balls, by the way.
Mike is on. Hello, Jay.
Yo. They're after you, dude.
Awesome, man.
They're after you. They know you. They know you was doing a bunch of money laundering at that church.
Wasn't me. Jay, you there? You can hear me for real?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome, man. Jay, I'd love to state a position, get your take on it.
Okay.
Jay, like, man, I've been conspiracy theorist since 07, man. Your work on the bad guys, did it, dude. Lectures on tragic cult, man. Snap, man. But yeah, I'd be glad to do position, man.
Okay. Let's say whatever you want. Thank you.
Okay. My position, Jay, is I'd start from a way of confusion.
A what?
A way of confusion. I would say that my position, Jay, is that I see three things. Absolutely. I see infinity, distinction, and the distincting, the happening of that. I think, Jay, this is a reflection of the Trinity that you're speaking of. I think that it is, when I see infinity, I see it's kind of like the imagination. It's kind of, I can see all the possible moments that I could be experiencing as my imagination. That's infinity. I see the one manifest reality in front of me. That's the distinct. And then I see the happening coming from infinity to the finity in front of me, and it's happening. I think this is reflective of the Trinity. I believe, you tell me, if it is the Father as infinity, the Son as the distinct, and I call it the Mother, but Holy Spirit as the happening between the two. Jay, is this ball rolling?
I mean, this is very close to something that Augustine argues on the Trinity. He also kind of makes similar analogy arguments in Confessions. So I wouldn't say it's totally out of place, but I think there's a little bit of ambiguity and confusion because, for example, the Holy Spirit's not a woman, so she's not a mother. The Holy Spirit is the third person of the Godhead of the Trinity and equally divine to the Father and the Son. And just because there's some manifestations of the Shekinah or something like that might reference the Holy Spirit, doesn't mean the Holy Spirit's a woman. So I think that a lot of times the danger isn't, are there trinities in nature? It's rather that people think that the trinities that exist in nature are then read back into God, and then the triad conforms to the created thing, when it's the other way around. Created things conform to the triad. So we have to start with the triad, not our speculations about created trinities.
Right. I understand. I kind of use the mother aspect, just kind of a cultural, kind of how I see it kind of thing. But yeah, they kind of take the whole position. I do see this kind of way of confusion in that my position is that the reality is coming to me, and I understand I can't control it all. And so with that, I yield. I say, okay, there's a higher power than the control I have over my experience. So I yield to that higher power. So if I continue into what's real, what's not real, what's going on, in this kind of position where it's just me, what I do know is absolute, is that I am. That's it. I can't debate my own existence.
Well, and I appreciate that. I'm gonna move on to the next one because that gets into like Descartes, and I don't think Descartes. I think therefore I am is a very good argument. You can look up where we've critiqued Descartes, but also again I think we have to go from divine revelation first to know the Trinity, at least as far as it's revealed to us in Scripture and tradition, and then we can say, okay, there's elements in creation which image this triad. But we can't start with all these things about, time and distinctions in time, and then read that back into God, starting from the created, because that ends up usually putting us in really weird positions. Let's see. Walid Naim. Walid Naim. He's trying to connect. So you might have to come back out, come back in or something. It's not working. So didn't we already go to you, James? We already did you, man. I don't know. People, like, why you keep raising? All right, you going crazy with your hand raising here, but then we already did you. What's up? Yeah, unmute.
Jay, how's it going, man?
Yeah, what's up?
It was actually to do with states' rights.
Okay, what's up?
It was to do with states' rights.
What was?
It.
Huh?
The War of the States, 1861 to 65.
I don't remember talking about states' rights wars. What do you mean?
It's just an interesting conversation, the whole thing, and it's probably the most interesting case study you could do in politics,
Okay. All right. I'm not trying to be rude. I don't understand, like, how does that fit into what we were talking about? I mean, I understand states' rights fits into it, but Matthew. Yeah, I'm aware of the Civil War being about states' rights. I know all that. I'm not talking to this guy. I'm talking to the chat. I'm aware. Yeah, what's up, Matthew?
Oh, hey, how's it going, Jay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, what's up?
I was wondering what you would think of a figure like Edmund Burke, who in many ways is a liberal, but I think we would both agree, like, private property is not bad, markets aren't bad in and of themselves. But a guy like Burke, he will emphasize hierarchy.
I think the thing with Burke, though, yeah, I'm aware. I understand all that. I think the thing with Burke, though, is that he was a right-wing Mason. So that would be my main critique there. Satyam, we got a Hindu bro on here. What's up? I don't think have we ever had a Hindu bro calling in? I don't think we ever have. How come you don't debate Hindus? You gotta unmute, man. You must unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
What's up? I'm doing good.
So I'm a Hindu, by the way, and I don't see that in the title of this space, but I'd just like to know about your point of view about Hinduism.
I think it's polytheism and idolatry.
Oh, you don't think it's monotheism?
Well, it would be henotheism, maybe, but not monotheism.
Oh, it is monotheism.
Well, I mean, if you want to redefine the word to mean that, okay.
Monotheism is about worshipping one God, and the Hindu scriptures talk about everything being Parabrahman. So,
yeah, right. So that's not monotheism. That's pantheism.
Pantheism is like a lot of gods, right?
No. All right. So it's not gonna work. George, what's up? George, you must unmute.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, Jay.
Yeah, what's up, man? Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for your content. I'm Orthodox Christian in Syria. I live in Syria right now. I might have a question, like, outside of the current topic. It's about, like, intra-Orthodox problems.
Sorry. Again, I'm not trying to be mean, but every time we do this, people call in about not the topic. It drives me crazy. So no. Tanji. What's up? Nice to be back to 1,000 live stream. Exactly. We got over 1,000. We only got 289 likes. Come on, y'all. What's up? Y'all don't like this? Tons, you got to unmute, man.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was curious about, like, there's been these people that so I'm an ex-Protestant, and I've been trying to kind of look for some type of Protestant justification. And I call them out for a lot of positions, like Filioque, and talk about the inconsistencies and problems with that. And a lot of times they will just start to adopt Orthodox theology as Protestants.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times they will literally just like take it and claim like, sure, we can just take all these things. I'm curious what you think about those people. I just like start taking doctrines.
I think it's a natural move. Like I remember being Protestant, and when I was first looking into Roman Catholicism, I remember thinking, oh, well, I can like be Protestant and then adopt these positions. And what they don't realize is that, first of all of the Orthodox doctrines hang or fall together. So, for example, if I adopt the Orthodox view of the triad, that also necessitates logically, theologically, the Orthodox doctrine of the essence-centered distinction. The essence-centered distinction then affects my view of the sacraments in the church. So I can't consistently hold to a Protestant doctrine of the church where I'm also trying to have an Orthodox view of the sacraments. It starts to make absolutely no sense. But in actual process and progress, that's typically what happens. Like it's a natural progression to where you start thinking, oh, well, maybe I can hold to, some kind of real presence in the Eucharist. And then you kind of grind, well, maybe we need to have some kind of hierarchy in the church. So I'll be like a high church Anglican. And then you gradually just realize, okay, the Protestants are just wrong. So it's a package deal. It's not a pick and choose thing. But I mean, it makes sense because Protestantism is all about pick and choose.
I've heard you talk about like this triad a lot. I'm not super deep into Orthodoxy yet. What is exactly the difference between triad theology and Trinitarian theology?
It's just the Greek word for Trinity. So, and by the way, this shows how ignorant Trent Horn is, because he thinks triad is an anti-Trinitarian term, which is utterly dumb. I don't know where he got this idea. By the way, he hasn't changed his statement on this in like a year of saying the same stupid thing. So the top Roman Catholic apologist doesn't even know that the standard Greek term for Trinity is triad, and that this is used amongst the Greek fathers. So supposedly he attends a Eastern Rite church, and he doesn't even know this. So anyway, not trying to be rude, but that's what triad means. So anyway, people get mad, think I'm being mean to everybody. No, bro, what's up, man? We're not here we can't debate state rights and the Civil War. Okay, that's not for YouTube, man. What's up? Did you want to make your final point?
How's it going? Yeah, originally, I was trying to make a point that all of Christendom has replaced the one true God with false gods of individual freedom, communism, also National Socialism. But the Islamic world never did that. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think Islam is more directly theocratic, or at least it's supposed to be. But there actually have been quite a few movements that the CIA fostered, like the KLA, where they did blend communism and Islam. That has actually happened. So all these people who've already talked, keep calling. Like if you've already called, don't clog up the thing here. Keep calling in. Siddhartha. They took the stones from here. They took the stones from here. Rand W, would you like to call in? Anybody talking smack in the chat needs to call in. So this is just literally the stupidest idiocy. God is his own son. Okay, do you understand the word God picks out different things? Go ahead, man. What's up?
Hey, Jay, can you hear me?
Yup.
Hey, Jay, what's up?
Yo, what's up, man?
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you could answer a question regarding the essence and energy distinction.
Yeah.
Right. So regarding this problem, would you agree that throughout the scriptures, whether it be in the Old Testament when God is speaking things into creation, or when he's speaking through the prophets, he's speaking before the congregation of Israel, or in the New Testament where Jesus Christ is speaking. The words that God is uttering, like these particular words, like, would you agree that these are like God's uncreated energies?
Yeah, they're called logi.
Right. So like, when Augustine, and I think it's Confessions book 11, I don't remember the chapter, where Augustine is arguing, like his reasoning through these things, and is saying that God's words are like created. So you would reject this position,
wrong.
right?
Correct.
Right.
So you need to read Saint Maximus, who explains that the divine ideas are logi and they're uncreated. The Bible is a book. It's a physical thing that's created. The words on the pages are symbols. They're created symbols. But the actual referent, what it's referring to, are the thoughts of the logos, the logi.
Right. So I was just pointing out Augustine to like clarify my statement. So like about that.
Oh, right. I understand.
So for example.
And yeah, we would reject and critique. Actually, Dr. Bradshaw has a good critique of a lot of the Neoplatonian arguments in the Confessions.
Right. So about that. So for example, when in the Old Testament, like I just want to say that I'm like barely scratched the surface of this issue. So like I wouldn't pretend to like know everything. So but like in the Old Testament, when in the book of Leviticus, where God is giving these temporary laws to Israel regarding purity and impurity, regarding sacrificial temple offerings.
Yeah.
If the words that God is uttering, if these are uncreated energies, I think it logically follows that the words that God is saying, these are eternal in nature. Like, then how, if God's words are necessarily eternal, then how is it that God can give temporary commandments that are not eternal?
Yeah, this is covered in the Triads 3, section 2, where St. Gregory Palamas says that God can also act within time and space. This is the whole premise of the incarnation. So even though God's words are eternal, bro, come on, you're breathing so loud in the phone, man. Even though God's words are eternal, he can still manifest in time and space and also come and go in time and space. There's nothing limiting God from doing that. That's the whole premise of the incarnation, that the second person of the Godhead, not the divine essence, the second hypostasis, not the Father, not the Holy Spirit, the second person of the Godhead stepped into time and space, entered into a mode of being that the other two persons did not, and he walked around and did things. This is Philippians 2. This is the kenosis, not henosis, kenosis of Philippians 2, that he took on the form of a servant and limited himself, meaning that he willed not to exercise all of his divine powers, and thus put himself into a mode of being. He was still omniscient, still omnipresent, but he's also uniquely present in Jerusalem, uniquely present in Capernaum. That's the unique mode of the incarnation. And that's part of the essence-centered distinction, correct. Not all of God's actions are identical. So again, if we've already come to you, man, we're going to new people. Ricey, what's up?
Hello?
Yo.
So, like, what's the best way to, like, argue against this black Hebrew Israelite stuff? Because I know people who actually believe this. And they just use, like, the most basic literature arguments. Like that passage with the hair thingy.
I mean, I don't know how if people are like that, uneducated and they don't know what a suffix is, and they can't go and see that a Jew or Jewess or Jewish refers to Yehudite, that it means the same thing, as you can see here in the very Strong's definition that guy read out. Like, I don't know what, like, you're dealing with people who, like, are functionally illiterate almost. I don't know. Like, I don't know, how do you explain to somebody what a suffix is if they don't understand it? I mean, that's actually a question I don't know the answer to. Rico, Suave.
Hey, what's up, Jay?
Mm-hmm.
What's it called? I was gonna ask you about. I saw this thing recently. The Codex Vaticanus, if I'm saying that right, it had a little footnote beside one of the texts, one of the Greek texts, and it said something around like, it was like, "Fool and knave, why are you distorting the scriptures?" or something. It was talking like about something like that, and I've heard this from Muslims talking about it, and they were, trying to get a gotcha moment with that, trying to say how, like, oh, that's proof it's corrupted or something. But my kind of response was like, if that's the case, it would be corruption that's against Jesus' divinity. It wouldn't have been people, and like the time where Codex Vaticanus was 350, so it wouldn't have been people trying to make him divine. That would have already been stated. I said I'm assuming it would have been like Gnostics or Arians that were the culprits of like what this little footnote said. And I was just wondering, what's your opinion with that?
We follow the received text generally in the Orthodox Church, which is not the oldest, but is what we accept by tradition. So you can't really divorce tradition from this, but I don't think Codex Vaticanus is therefore, it's not necessarily some trick where they're trying to, like, devalue Christ's divinity or something like that. But yeah, if there was going to be a devaluing of Christ's divinity, it wouldn't be from sources within the church. That's kind of stupid. Orthodox. So every time we do this, we don't actually get any libertarians or atheists that call in. It's always just people calling in with a bunch of Orthodox questions, which is fine. I'm not mad at people, but it's like the topic is libertarianism, atheism, Catholicism, Protestantism, Islam. Okay, it's not like ask me interjurisdictional Orthodox questions or whatever. And I'm not talking about the previous guy. I'm talking about the other guy calling in about all the stuff off topic. Nobody can defend these positions? Like, you can just call in and make actual arguments? Like, where are the people who can make these arguments? Dawn Treader. You have to unmute, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks for letting me ask you a question. What do you think about the idea that your version of Christianity is on its face a Jewish/Roman/pagan myth, and to believe in any of it as literal is a type of insanity?
Well, what's the other version that we should believe in? Something Gnostic? Is that where you're going?
Yeah. Ancient alien, pantheist, Gnosticism, right. The true God.
Uh-huh. Yeah, let's go with that. How do you know that ancient alien Gnosticism is correct?
Well, we don't know it. That's why it's God, because it's a mystery.
Okay. So, do you know that we can't know that?
Yes, as far as what knowing means to me.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means I think it's right now.
Oh, okay. But maybe not tomorrow, so you don't know it.
Well, if it's the same tomorrow, it increases how right I think it is.
Okay, what's your account of knowledge? What are the reasons? What are the good reasons to believe what you're talking about?
The Sumerian texts and our difference between.
Why am I supposed to believe Sumerian texts?
Monkeys makes more sense than the Jewish myth.
How do I know that makes more sense?
That God created Earth in 6,000 years ago.
Okay, so these ridiculous myths, which are even more ridiculous than what you're calling ridiculous, we're supposed to believe that those are the ones that make more sense.
Well, I guess I just wanted your response.
Yeah, my response is, how do you know that? What's your account for epistemology?
Oh, I told you that. Me thinking.
No, you didn't give an account.
Right now.
Okay, thinking it's you think that's a good argument?
All the information available.
You think that's you don't even understand what epistemology is. You think that's a good argument?
I do. Knowing things means thinking it's right after taking in all the information you can.
All right, that's not what it means. So you have no idea what you're talking about. Two-door. My account for epistemology is I think it's right at this point. That's... And if you can't see why that doesn't get you to justification, then this conversation is not going to go anywhere. So look, it's open forum, but you got to present an argument, and that's not an argument. Saying that I know it's right at this time because that's what epistemology is knowing what it is at this time. That's like so just not. I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, people have no idea what it means to like give an account for knowledge. So it's open forum for any libertarian, atheist, Roman Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, Islam, etc., whatever. Call in and you can make your case, make your argument, request to speak. Nobody ever does. It's just like people who no clue what they're even talking about, stoned out of their mind. I mean, two-door, you're going to have to come out and come back in. Sean, what's up, Sean?
Hi, Jay. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much for inviting me on the show. Thank you very much for hosting me. I discovered your channel about a month ago, and I'd like to say I'm enjoying the content. Okay. I want to ask you. You have said before that if the uncreated eternal being creates both good and evil, that this is Gnostic or Manichaean. But if the being or the deity only creates good, isn't evil a philosophically independent existence? Doesn't evil have a philosophically independent existence?
No.
Wouldn't this create a dualist reality with two uncreated beings?
No, it was precisely why we don't think that evil has any substance or being. It's a privation.
Okay, but if evil doesn't exist, then... okay, forgive me. Does this mean that evil doesn't exist?
Right, it means it's a privation, like a lack, right? Like negative numbers or something like that, right? Those are analogies. So, for us, all evil is the move of the will away from the good. So it doesn't grant substance or being to evil.
Okay, so all things are just found on a spectrum between better and nothing, let's say. You can only get better. Anyways, okay, sorry. It's
all evil is to act against God's law. That's it. So when I, if I steal, there's nothing wrong with the goods that I've stolen. There's nothing wrong with my hand that steals the goods. The evil is in my will against the good. And it doesn't mean my will becomes evil in itself. It just means that I'm acting against my own nature and God's nature.
Okay, doesn't that mean that the evil has some agency? Because you
No,
kind of...
I'm the agent who acts against the good to my own detriment, and it's a privation. So, no, it doesn't take on agency because evil is not a thing.
Okay, what is that which animated you to commit the evil? Or
well, free will is a potentiality, but potentiality itself isn't evil.
Okay, so I have to read more. But can I just ask one more question? Does evil not have agency through the figure of Satan? How does Satan,
Right. No, that's a fair question, right? So in our view, even the angelic nature itself is not bad, but Satan moved to use his will as something bad. So no, even angelic nature remains good. Gregory something, I missed it, what the last name was. So we had a bunch of people in the chat over here talking a bunch of smack. I don't know, why don't these people call in? That's just so annoying, like just spamming a bunch of garbage about anti-Trinitarians, and then they won't come debate. There's the link. All you gotta do is right there, calling. Go ahead, Gregor. What's up?
Hey, what's up? Thanks very much for hosting this. I appreciate you putting it on. I think you might know my brother, Timothy Gordon. I don't know, maybe you guys have debated before or discussed.
I mean, haven't I debated you?
No, I've never chatted with you before.
I mean, hold on.
But,
are there like multiple Gordon brothers?
Well, yeah, there's three of us.
Oh, I didn't know there was a third. Excuse me.
Well, no, I'm the anonymous third brother.
Okay, well, I've talked. Are you trolling? Is this a joke? Or are you for real?
No, not at all. Hey,
I've debated David, and then Timothy and I have had a lot of conversation. We haven't had a formal debate.
Okay, I'm the third brother.
Okay,
but
well, what's up, man? Good to meet you.
Yeah, I don't want to debate you. I just wanted to add to the conversation. I appreciate you hosting this. So as someone who's coming from a libertarian-ish perspective, now I'm pretty much in the post-libertarian world, but I haven't entered that libertarian to ortho bro pipeline yet. With all due respect to my Orthodox brothers, I am Catholic, but I wanted to say there is a tremendous there's a tremendous variety of different flavors of so-called libertarians.
That's true. Yeah.
Some of them are completely cringe. You know this.
That's why I went to the classical liberal presupposition.
Okay, fair enough. No, I appreciate that, because there are a lot of radical decentralists who, like myself, come from the American tradition firmly within conservatism, embracing pretty much a non-universalist perspective, except for certain natural rights, which are the most important for any society. You can't go kill someone. You can't go steal their property, right? There are a lot of right-wing libertarians who wouldn't even call themselves libertarians, I think, who are just into this radical secessionism, radical, let's call it federalism, hard federalism in the American tradition. And I think that's a really interesting space, right? I was even just talking with my brother about this the other day, about like Tolkien having anarchist leanings. Now, he's not a radical cultural Marxist, obviously. He came much earlier than the Frankfurt School and cultural Marxist. But the point is, we want to devolve society down to smaller groups of people with common cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds, and then you don't need the state, almost in the Rousseauian sense, in the giant monolithic Leviathan sense. And I just wanted to have a conversation with you, or what are your thoughts on that? I mean, in terms of the diversity within liberty thought, there are a lot of right-wing libertarians and, like I say, more localists, like radical localists.
Yeah, I would definitely agree more so with those people. I mean, the more that they're moving in that direction as a libertarian, the more we would overlap. So we would kind of be meeting more and more in the middle there. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I would also challenge you with this idea of natural rights. I see this as actually a very susceptible weak point in the libertarian ethos in general, going back to the Enlightenment. I don't know what a natural right is or how you would give an account for it.
Yeah, well, I think I would be searching to explain it solidly within Christian Orthodoxy.
Well,
in terms of just respecting the person, going back to the Ten Commandments,
okay, but
living in harmony with one another, not
so now,
taking life.
But aren't the Ten Commandments But aren't the Ten Commandments divine revelation?
Correct. Yes, I'm saying something rooted in that. And of course, we can tie it all back to Moses, divine revelation, of course. But and I know that there's a lot on the right who object to natural rights, which I understand they can be very revolutionary. Appealing to them can overturn societies. I mean, look at the disaster of the French Revolution, and a lot of what you're talking about too, the Enlightenment. And this is something that I've been thinking through.
Well, but I'm making a more specific critique of natural theology.
Yeah.
I mean, natural rights is bound up with natural theology.
Sure. But isn't this something that's kind of at the heart of the American? I don't want to say contradiction. I love this country.
It is, yeah.
And I love our traditions, but it's almost, again, expound on this, please. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But we are formed in a revolutionary, almost Enlightenment mindset, but yet
no, that's what I said at the beginning.
Many of us want to conserve these rights.
Yeah, the beginning of this stream was that very point.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
That's
I didn't
okay.
hear that.
It's all right.
Great conversation, though. Great discussion. I appreciate it. And just, I would say, keep in mind the radical diversity and the fights going on within the so-called libertarian. And I get it. Libertarianism, especially capital L, man, so cringy right now.
Yeah.
They just nominated this Chase Oliver guy.
Yeah, that's why we're doing the stream. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. So there's a lot of pure cringe in libertarianism. I get it. And you're spot on when you say it's kind of like a cringe holdover from the Enlightenment in terms of like, yeah, well, where do we get our rights, man? I mean, if you're going to be atheistic about this, what good is the non-aggression principle? Says who?
Yeah,
kind
right.
of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Keep listening.
Pleasure to meet you. I didn't know there was a third Gordon, so that's very cool. Great points. I think, yeah, if you go back to the beginning of this chat, you'll notice that a lot of the points I made at the beginning are identical. So we're on the same wavelength there. Let's see. Now, I want to remind you guys, we got several more people who popped into the chat. Welcome. We're discussing and debating not just libertarianism, but anything to do with libertarian thought, classical liberalism, Enlightenment philosophy, Roman Catholicism, atheism, Protestantism, Islam. You're all welcome to call in. I do want to remind you, though, that we do have a show sponsor, and that show sponsor is the one and only, the amazing, the based, the king of based, Chalk.com.
I'm gonna put you on something crazy real quick. Most of these Zoomer gym bros are consuming macro-guzzling synthetic dyes and synthetic sweeteners on the daily. They don't even know it. Goofy AF. There's nothing great about that. Do not listen any further unless you are an alpha or sigma male. This is important and there could be consequences. There's a new certified sigma male pre-workout powder for sigmas only. It is guaranteed to empower you to dominate your co-workers, fire your boss, aggressively gamble, or invade a small village. Chad Mode stands out from the crowd by excluding artificial flavors, preservatives, sweeteners, and dyes. We've even avoided so-called natural flavors, which are actually not natural at all, ensuring a clean and effective formula. Experience the pure goodness of Chad Mode, colored with organic blue spirulina extract, organic lemon, cherry, and organic maple crystals. Forget synthetic caffeine made in a sketchy Chinese lab. Embrace the natural power of organic green coffee bean extract, which will get your mind going and pump you up to the max. Chad Mode is made in America with all clean ingredients, the first clean pre-workout of its kind. Why are these people adding synthetic sweeteners to every single pre-workout when there are many studied downsides to consuming nasty fake sucralose? Each dose of Chad Mode contains the kick of a cup and a half of coffee, delivering a surge of energy alongside essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and herbal extracts. Chad Mode will allow you to fire your boss and dominate anyone who opposes you. Chad Mode will make you more dominant in your daily life, so proceed with caution. It's as simple as mixing 1 or 2 scoops of our fine powder into water or juice, providing you with a delicious, energizing beverage featuring a burst of sweet organic fruit flavor.
We're back. We got some more people have popped in. Let's see who we're going to go to next. Ukraine 777. Thought maybe we get some BHIs, but no luck today. What's up, Ukraine?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, this is, okay, you can hear me. It does work. Yeah, I was wondering, I have a scientific background. I have some interest in quantum mechanics and stuff. Does the fact that vacuum energy exists and that you get, that even perfect vacuums generate subatomic particles and things like that. I mean, is divine energy a possible source for that? And I would also point out, you were saying that data can't be sentient. Well, I kind of disagree with that. If you look at like the SQL database programming language, or even just Linux bash scripts, I mean, you can have, even if we've never contacted any non-human intelligence at all, I mean, data can still exist in the universe.
How would that in any way entail that it possesses sentience or consciousness? So, and I don't know what, like all this stuff you're talking about, vacuum, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, quantum mechanics, quantum field theory.
What does that have to do with today's topics, though?
Well, atheism. I mean, what I'm saying is that if, that energy in a vacuum, the scientific instruments basically show it coming from nothing. But I mean, I wouldn't something outside the universe, the dimension such as God, be a possible source for that?
Well, I mean, if there are energies popping into existence out of nothing, I would say, yeah, there would have to be some kind of transcendent source. But we would say that those are created energies, not uncreated energies.
Well, I mean, it's at some point, if the universe is created by God from divine energy, like divine essence to divine energy to created energy, at some point there has to be some crossover from one to the other. I mean, if you have like a battery, have a positive side and a negative side. I mean, it has to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Transfer,
Well,
right?
yeah, I would say that God is present in the created order, but that doesn't mean that he has to be equated to the created order. So you can have a both and as opposed to an either or. There's nothing inherently contradictory about that as a possibility.
Yeah. But I mean, do you think it's worth looking in like what Richard Dawkins was saying, like looking in the human genetic code for some kind of encrypted message in it, and how would that be decoded even if you found it? How would you read it? I always wondered about that.
I don't find Richard Dawkins to be very convincing at all due to pretty high-level philosophical ignorance. I mean, he might know about his niche field that he studied biology or whatever, but I don't think he's very fluent at all when it comes to philosophical arguments. I mean, I don't know about quantum physics, but I mean, at a philosophical level, like, how would you give an account for, your basic worldview if you don't believe in God's existence?
Well, I do. I'm actually converting to Orthodoxy.
Oh,
but,
I thought you were an atheist.
The idea that science disproves God. Not all of it. I mean, the quantum mechanics stuff is strange. It's almost. I mean, it's a lot more like witchcraft or magic than religion. But I mean, if you have stuff popping out of a vacuum, maybe they kind of found where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
besides, the thing is with God, I mean, you have an access to an infinite number of spatial and temporal dimensions anyway. So things like the age of the universe is the Earth 6,000 years old don't mean anything. For one thing, where's the clock located?
Yeah, I think that's actually a good question. Yeah, good challenges, good questions there. Bobby C, what's up, man? You gotta unmute Bobby C.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. I wanted to try to present an argument against the Orthodox understanding of the Eucharist, being that it's the literal transfiguration or transmogrification. I'm not sure the exact term. Essentially, is that okay if I go down this path?
And what is your position?
So at this point, I am an Orthodox inquirer, and I was trying to better understand the position. But this this argument that I'm trying to go through was a stumbling block in me trying to figure my way through it. So I wanted to try to present an argument against it, if that makes sense, to see how you would kind of respond, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay. So essentially, my understanding, or at least the argument would be that the Eucharist, or at least the Orthodox teaching of it, would violate the law of identity because it's, if I can just kind of summarize it or simplify it, the bread being transformed into the flesh of Christ would essentially mean, without actually taking on the properties of flesh, would mean that it's not actually flesh, but it's still the bread. Does that kind of make sense?
Right. So we don't believe that God is bound by Aristotelian logic, right? So just like you can't use the Aristotelian law of identity or other arguments about substance and accidents to refute the triad, you can't refute Christology, for example, by saying that the human nature of Christ is deified. So in the incarnation, the divine person of the Son assumes human nature and deifies that human nature without it losing its natural properties. It still and will always remain created. The same principle is applied by Ephesus and St. Cyril to the Eucharist, that the Eucharist is transformed into the body, blood, soul, and uncreated energy of the God-man as well. So if you're going to undo the Eucharist and the real presence, you're also going to undo, by extension, the incarnation and the deification of Christ's human nature. Bobby, are you there? Bobby C? I think we lost you, so you might want to come back in. We can't hear you. James, what's up?
Yo.
Hey.
Hey, Jay.
What's up?
Hey, there just hasn't been a whole lot of Protestant discussion. I'm not going, like, getting angry or anything. I just had a question about, to me, it's kind of like a Protestant argument, like, verse. I guess I don't know if you've replied to this before.
A Protestant verse? How are there Protestant verses?
Well, I might have misspoke.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, it's in Mark chapter 9. John tells Jesus that he saw someone casting out demons in his name.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be mean. We've addressed that probably 20 times. So.
Oh.
Yeah. So it also says that he will be amongst us. So it's not saying that, oh, it's a free-for-all, do whatever you want. Orthodox man. Unmute. Yes, sir. Are you there? You wait all this time, and then you don't have your permissions turned on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, man? Go ahead.
Hey, Jay. I got a quick question. Is it okay if it's kind of about libertarianism?
Yeah,
but
that's
it's
the
also
topic.
involving Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's the topic, sure. I'm just happy that
Okay.
people are asking topical questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so I just have a question. So, how do you support libertarian or don't support libertarianism and at the same time support Bitcoin? I mean, I see those two as kind of the same thing, if that makes sense.
Well, how would the monetary form and policy necessitate classical liberalism?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? My phone's real crappy.
It's all right. How would the monetary form necessitate classical liberalism? Because, for example, gold. A lot of people would say, "Oh, gold is, a libertarian currency of choice, probably equal to or up there with Bitcoin still." Does that make all of the kings using gold in the Middle Ages therefore libertarian?
All right, I didn't think about that. Okay.
I mean, the form of the money doesn't necessitate classical liberalism.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'm just retarded then.
It's okay. I'm not calling you names.
Also, just wanted to say I do appreciate your content. I was Catholic as of about actually just a year ago. I was baptized Catholic, and shortly after becoming Catholic, I noticed a lot of problems with the current Pope, and it got me looking into Orthodoxy, and it got me into you. And I could say because of you, I'm just now talking with my local priest about joining.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah, and if I could can I say one thing that I also learned about that helped me for people that might be on the bridge of joining one or the other?
Sure.
So I've been reading through the apostolic canons, and I noticed that the Catholic Church has broken several of them. Like one of them was like a clergy can't hold political office.
That's correct. Yeah.
Clergy can't be involved in the army or military.
But the Pope can have a standing army.
Wait, you said he can or can't, according to the
joke.
canons? Oh, okay. I was about to say, because that kind of confused me.
In the Middle Ages,
there's
right?
also a
The
warrior pope.
Borgia popes have a standing army, so I'm making a joke.
Oh, okay. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a warrior pope too, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And and then these have to do with more recent times, but it also says bishops and clergy you can't enter into a Jewish synagogue. And then there's another one after it that says you can't even light the candles.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, that's exactly what Pope Francis has done.
Well, Benedict too, and John Paul.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay, I didn't even know that goes back.
Yeah,
that
that's
far.
repeated. I think, and it's in the canons of either Trollo or the Sixth Ecumenical Council repeats that canon. So that's correct. I think it's the Sixth. Yeah, but they don't care about canons, so I appreciate that. We're gonna move on. Yeah, they don't care. They just say, well, the Pope can do whatever he wants, so he can trump all those things. Bobby C, did you want to? Let's go to Logan. He hasn't talked yet.
Hey Jay.
Yes, sir.
You hearing me all right? I know my audio quality probably isn't great.
I can hear you.
All right. So I was just wondering, like, on a low level, how do I, like, what would be a good way of going about talking to, like, just basic low level Catholic practitioners about, like, Orthodoxy, and kind of not shoving it in their face, but kind of trying to invite them into the parish and get them out of the insanity that is the Roman Catholic Church?
I mean, I don't know what to say other than just being friendly and inviting them. I mean, if you're talking about inviting people, then you probably mean people in your immediate sphere. So you're not talking about, like, discoursing on the internet. But I don't know, like, you could just keep sending them, you know, clown mass clips and be like, hey, we don't have clown masses, so why don't you come to our church? Bobby C, go ahead. By the way, I want to remind you guys that we'll be live June 22nd in Las Vegas. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you're in the Vegas area, be sure and come on over here to Eventbrite. Here's the link. I'll put it in the show description. We'll be live with Isaac Weishaupt, with my wife, Jamie Hanshaw, and made by Jim Bob. You can't beat this lineup. Jamie Kennedy did have to cancel this event. We'll be doing more events with him in the future. But here you go. There's the link. Be sure and get tickets right now to our amazing Hollywood conspiracy and comedy event. It's going to be a blast. We'll have books. We'll have lectures. We'll have jokes and impressions. Get your tickets right there. Go ahead. What's up? Mr. C?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened to my audio. But
Your evil coop? You know what I'm talking about? Nobody gets my references. They're all just too obscure. Do you know who Mr. C? Mr. C?
Wait, say again?
Mr. C?
No, I don't know the reference.
Anyway, go ahead. That's fine.
But yeah, so if I understood you correctly, basically you're saying I was applying Aristotelian logic beyond what it should be applied to?
Yeah, I was saying you can't say, for example, that everything that goes on in the theological domain, like the Trinity or the Incarnation or the sacraments, is subjected to Aristotelian categories and logic. In fact, many of the heretics that are condemned in the ecumenical councils, like John Philoponus, he subjected the triad to Aristotelian definitions of identity and substance. So that's what led him to say that if a hypostasis is an instantiated substance, then there's three substances in the Trinity, and that's tritheism. So likewise, you can't subject the miracles and the presence and mode of God in the created order and the deification of the human nature of Christ to some Aristotelian category.
Okay. I think that makes sense.
Because it would undo the deification of it's not just a question of the Eucharist. The Eucharist is premised on our Christology. The deification of the human nature of Christ is the Eucharistic principle. And you can read that in Ephesus. That's Cyril's whole argument at Ephesus.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Yeah, those are great questions. Yeah, thank you. I'm not trying to be mean. But you are Mr. C. So we all got to be aware of Mr. C. Tudor, do you want to try again? Then we'll go to Last Supper after that. Unmute, man.
So, now it's working. I popped in like a million times. So, hi Jay, can you hear me?
What's up? Yeah, I can hear.
So, I don't want to take up too much time, but first I want to thank you for all the stuff you do. I became Orthodox this Easter with my fiance
Many
because
years.
of your content. Greetings from Germany. By
Many
the way.
years.
The country's going to shits, but
Yes,
Orthodoxy
that's
is
true.
growing. So, well, now I have a few questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I just stay on topic, but I don't want to be too annoying. So
Okay, go ahead.
You can say if it's all right or not. So
Go ahead.
So as far as I understood, transcendental argumentation goes like you eliminate the contrary options because they are contradictions, right?
That's part of it. But you also present the positive position, not just a negative critique.
Yeah, right. So, and also there's like, I've gone through many of your talks, so I didn't want to annoy you with another question from Tag. But I didn't find this stuff I was looking for, so I thought I'd just pop in.
Okay, what are you looking for?
So we have, as I've understood it, we have like reproving this transcendentals, like math or language, for example. And on the other hand, we have the package deal orthodoxy with essence energy distinction and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've viewed also the video from David Patrick Harry where he explains the step-by-step tag argumentation. And I couldn't get my finger quite on it.
Right, so the way that we get to Trinity is covered in my talk about Ed Phaser, philosophy, universals, and divine conceptualism. So that's where I go and argue Trinity. So I'm not trying to be rude, but I want to move on here. We got Roman Catholic, your Last Supper. I'll put that in the chat for you guys here. It's this one. And then there's another one where I got into that, but I forget which one it is. Go ahead.
Yo, what's up, Jay Dyer?
Yes, sir. You're roboting.
Last Orthodox.
Can you start over? You're roboting.
Yeah, I said I got a lot of respect for your work, bro, but I just have a quick question. Who was the last Orthodox Bishop of Rome?
Well, I guess we'd have to say officially it was when the excommunication happened with, Photius, or excuse me, with whoever the 1054 Pope was. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think that was Leo, and then you have Victor. From what I have a list here. I just searched up on chat. But
okay.
So would that be technically the gates prevailing against the church?
Well, I don't think that because we see the church as decentralized, we don't negate the entire Western church because of what one guy in Rome did. But you guys dogmatize the errors at Lyons and Florence. So between 1274 to Florence is when it's sort of dogmatized.
Okay, gotcha. So we're going with Pope Leo.
Well, you said this. You said specifically which Bishop of Rome, and so it would be the one excommunicated. And I'm saying, does that mean that everybody is damned? No, because you've got a decentralized. I think we believe the church was always decentralized, even in the West. So the papists assumed that it was like this monolithic entity. It wasn't. Not everybody, even at this time, had the filioque in the creed.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm sort of new to like the argumentation back and forth, but
that's
just wanted
fine.
to know your opinion on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, call in anytime. Happy to address that.
Thanks, bro.
Shmuley. Okay, I'm probably gonna have to head out pretty soon. You gotta unmute. Pope Leo the 9th. Yeah, that makes sense. You gotta unmute, man. Do you want to talk or not? Okay. I don't know. Well, people wait all this time and then they don't talk. OG, man, what's up?
Hello, Jay.
Uh-huh.
So I have a few questions. First of all, I was an atheist like 2 years ago, and from watching you, I just started wondering about Orthodox. But I have a few questions. I am a complete noob on this, so keep that in mind.
Okay.
But I was wondering about I know I heard you a few times talking about tag, and I can
Can I get you to call back in next time about tag? Because it's not really what I wanted to talk about today, but we do these often, so let's go back to this guy, Shmuley. Unmute. You gotta unmute to talk. Johnny Utah. Trying to get preference to people that disagree. I'm not trying to be rude to that guy, but he can call back in. People that disagree, go ahead, Johnny.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one question. Catholics believe in purgatory. Do you believe in purgatory?
No, the Orthodox do not believe in purgatory.
So you have no equivalent to it?
Not what they mean, no. So they mean paying for your temporal punishments that are accrued in your life due to the temporal debts. And then you pay it off in purgatory because it's stacked up in the bean counter, God's mind. We also don't believe that there's a created fire. God's uncreated. There's no created fire. Shmuley again.
Hi, Jay. Just a question.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the assumption of Mary. Do you guys take it literally? Just that.
Yeah, we think that Mary was assumed, and that's part of the Orthodox tradition, but not. We don't believe in Immaculate Conception.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Isaac Johnson. You gotta unmute, man.
Hey. So I've been looking into Orthodoxy lately. I was thinking I was going to become a Catholic. But I started listening to you and some other people, and my entire paradigm is kind of fallen down. So logically, I'm there.
Mm.
The couple things that kind of keep me from getting there, it's more like it's holding on to me, not so much holding on to it.
Is what?
Is like visions from people like Catherine Emmerich, Mary of Agreda, and the one apparition specifically of Guadalupe.
Okay, why would you believe in these women's apparitions? I mean, what does Paul say in Galatians 1 about apparitions?
Honestly, not sure.
You haven't read Galatians?
I have, but I could just say with Christianity as a whole, I've only really been open to that for about a year. I was
okay. Well, yeah, that's fine. I'm not trying to. I'm not calling you out or putting you on the spot, but you need to be reading the Bible before you're reading a bunch of apparitions. And so, if you read Galatians 1, Paul makes it very clear that the primacy that we give to what judges these things is, first of all, divine revelation in Scripture and the tradition of the church. So there's nothing that's going to come as a new revelation in the year 1500, 1300, 1700 that in any way contradicts the revelation given to the apostles or to the first 1,000 years of Christianity. And so especially with Anne Catherine Emmerich, if I recall, she sees visions of Muslims in paradise. Her position is not even consistent. Yeah, it's not even consistent with traditional Roman Catholic teaching. And that's why we don't judge the position on the basis of these supposed mystics. And that's why Paul says right here, even if we are an angel of heaven, preach anything other than what has already been committed, that is in the Old Testament and in the patristic corpus, and in the apostolic corpus and in the patristic teaching, the interpretation of these texts. That's the Orthodox view. We don't listen to it. And so everybody gets this backwards. I'm not calling you out, but I'm saying people get this backwards, and they judge the religion on the basis of these mystics and visions and claims, and there's just no way to judge or adjudicate between these things on that basis. And if you listened to this last Sunday's homily, if you're in the Russian tradition, then you got to hear the explication of the paralytic from the Russian tradition perspective. I'd never heard this, but there are certain details in the text that indicate that he actually sold out Jesus, because Jesus doesn't say to him, your faith has saved you. He blames Jesus for taking up his bed and walking as a paralytic. And the Russian tradition is that he's a guy who kind of sold out. And the point of that is that even a miracle doesn't prove or cause a person to believe. Jesus makes the same point to the guy who wants to be who's in Abraham's, the brother's in Abraham's bosom, the other guy's in torments, and he says, let me go back and tell my brothers, if I rise from the dead, he'll believe. And Jesus says, well, no, even if you rise from the dead, people still won't believe. So miracles are external things that don't necessarily cause a person to believe. They might, but miracles accompany the faith. They can't be the thing that determines the true or false faith, because every cult, every sect, every group claims miracles. And as we saw with that guy calling in about Fatima the other day, it's like, Fatima, I mean, the apparitions in Zaytun, does that prove the Coptic Church? You see how ridiculous these Roman Catholics are. They're totally inconsistent. Chris, $3. Jay, I'm Orthodox. I was wondering if it's logical to conclude that Protestantism is a type of Islam. They share a lot of commonalities and similarities, but I wouldn't say that it's a type of Islam. I would say that Islam is a proto-Protestantism. It's just kind of like, it's like a mix of Jehovah's Witness and Calvinism, basically. DC Woodworking, $3. Thank you so much. Jay Zuna, $15. Is it safe to say that a Protestant cannot justify any of their doctrines from Scripture? Well, it depends on what the doctrine is, because Protestants do believe some things that are true. So they believe in the deity of Christ, and most Protestants who are studied can justify that from the Scriptures. But more fundamental to that, they can't justify why they have the right list of Scriptures. Storm the Cat, $5. I know that Kabbalah borrows from Neo-paganism. Do you think that the name is connected to the Kaaba stone of Islam? I don't necessarily think so. I haven't looked into that, but I wouldn't think so. Do you think that there is a connection to hexagram and Saturn worship? Yeah, I think the Star of Remphan is believed to be a hexagram. So there could be some overlapping connection there. Also, support the show by going to Jay's Analysis in the shop. You can get signed copies of my books